But, yeah. And I mean, if your son, you mentioned, and he's in extracurriculars, but he's pretty self-sufficient now, right? He's old enough to drive, isn't he?
Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah, his name's Trent. He's the best. Yeah, he just got his driver's license, and people don't. I wasn't equipped enough with the how much that really changes things, because
Right. It
jokingly,
frees you up.
I'm not needed anymore.
Well, there again, we get back to the blessing and the curse.
Right.
It's like at one point it's like, oh, I got to get here, I got to get there, and then it's like that's probably the most quality time you get is in that car going to and from whatever practice game. What sports is he in?
He's really into basketball. He's going to be he goes to Flint Hill, so it's very competitive. Yep, very competitive.
Yes.
But he likes it, and I'm very into. He's basically, it sounds corny, but he's my everything, and
Right.
I'm very very proud of him, and it's one of the things that one of the best things about real estate has been the schedule flexibility.
Right.
Work a lot, but I could also all during his when he was growing up, I was able to go to all his school events, everything, because you can usually sort of carve out your schedule so you can do that stuff.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Is how do you transition? Because there is that you want to be there for everything,
Yep.
but you're also building a business. But because of the flexibility of real estate, you can really work your schedule around those things and put in the extra hours maybe when he's after bedtime and things like that. That's probably how you did it when he was younger.
Yeah, and I'm very amicably divorced about 9 years, I think, and his mom's awesome, Ophelia. And so we just do 50-50. So I only bring that up because that was very helpful in terms of growing up. When I had him for a week, I tried to spend as much time as possible with him, but then when I didn't have him, it was 24/7 go time, like getting stuff done.
It's funny you mention that because like I'm from a divorced family, and the greatest gift my parents gave me is they got along, and it was rare at that time to have amicable breakups. But I'm finding our generation, we're a little bit more pragmatic about it.
Yeah.
Especially at putting the children first and keeping the drama to a minimum. Because I'm going to say around 2013 or 14, I started doing a lot of loans for couples who were separating. They'd been nesting, like living in the house together, but kind of separated. And then they start finding significant others, and it was getting weird. So, one had stayed in the house and one had to move. And I remember distinctly because I had 3 clients in 1 year exactly like that. And before that, when I heard divorce, it was like, oh man, because one person's not going to sign for the other.
Right.
We're going to go through this whole. But I just think our generation was just getting to that age, and maybe because we were latchkey kids, I don't know what the science of it was, but kudos and a tip of the cap to you for putting the kid first. And even though you both maybe had careers and you got along, and it allowed you guys to thrive in your careers, where now you like I'm 24/7 also, but I don't have a family. So what excuse do I have?
Right. Well, that's and it's funny you say that because the team rebuilding thing sort of coincided with him getting the drive and being even more independent. So
yeah,
that's been a blessing, because when I had to sort of restructure things for the last 3 or 4 months, it has just been me, like buyers, sellers, everything. So that required, if that would have happened 7 or 8 years ago, obviously it would have been more challenging. But definitely a shout out. His mom, Ophelia, she actually teaches Spanish at Flint Hill. So that's
so she's just getting started for the year, huh?
It's yeah. So that's
Teachers.
been a real
Teachers.
Yes, yeah, 100%.
And administrators like Liz.
No kidding, man. It's amazing.
They are the saints.
All about our gratitude towards them. But,
well, so I'm going to guess that when you're trying to power down or decompress or for Peter time, it usually involves your son, and it probably involves going somewhere.
Yeah, I'm pretty boring.
Oh, really?
Well, not like boring. Like my dad, when I was like 8, took me to the horse races. So I sort of always had that kind of bond with him. So I like horse racing. I mean, I used to play a lot more golf and be a lot better. But I've only played like 2 or 3 times a year. I think until Trent goes to college, I think it's
Right.
pretty much full-time team because I want to make
Right.
sure he's all right. But my downtime is watching old NYPD Blues, old
Great show.
yeah,
Great show.
just
That
kind of
was
old shows like that and chilling out and hanging with Trent. And Trent's got a girlfriend too, who's just the best. So she'll come over and sometimes they'll grace me with some time.
well, Peter, cool points are important, and cool points
Yeah,
get jeopardized when you're spending too much time with pops.
I know, 100%. I'm always very mindful of his cool points because he was funny. Like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So you're rebuilding your team. Um, is there like a 5-year plan? Is there a retirement plan, or like?
I think, I mean, someone told me once, they're like, you're never going to not work. I'll talk a big game about, oh, I'm going to do this or whatever. But
Right.
I think probably the ideal would be just like I was going to with the people who are on my team is to have a 3 to 5 year plan and then have people run it for me and then step back and get maybe more a little strategic. Also, I work with a lot of investors and property management's always been something that's been sort of lingering where it is challenging to take people all the way to buying an investment property and then hand them off to a property management company. So I think that's something where I have a few sort of plans there to do that and become more of a one-stop shop. But yeah, I think that probably I would, with the new people coming on board, the cool thing is I have the structure all set. It's just a matter of plugging them in and then making sure. I always tell them, I'm like, let's keep this simple. I'm not saying I'm always right about stuff, but if you want to go far as the team, I just want to train you to view things and handle things as if, it was me. And
Right.
that's
Yeah,
hard.
I want to get back to that, but real quick, what attracted you to Compass?
Oh, Compass. I would say the slickness. At the time, I had a couple younger folks on my team. It's very hip brand, I think. And then the people that I knew who went to Compass really, really liked it. I did a good amount of due diligence because I've gone to a fair amount of brokerages, frankly, because I am a perfectionist.
Yeah,
If I'm not totally happy somewhere and somewhere else, I know
yeah,
most people just use me because of me, but I also want to attach myself to a brand. So
right.
one of the other things was that Compass's fit in the luxury space is very, very strong around here and around the country. And so
Yeah,
what had happened was I always pride myself on being a realtor that can handle any price point. You got a $200,000 condo, we're gonna hit it with 110% effort. You got a $2 million place, same thing. But you do
just
learn
extra
over
zeros,
time.
just extra
Yeah,
zeros.
totally. And so, but you know this, that when you get into luxury space, it's like you have to have sold luxury to sell luxury, and sort of have a track record.
Yeah,
So I was getting into that space when I was with Keller Williams, and then Compass came along. And I'm not sure the exact numbers, but I can tell you over the 1.5 years with Compass, I don't know if it's something I did or the brand or just, Kismet, but our luxury sales have gone up quite a bit.
right. And
Um,
you say slick, but very technology driven too.
Yes, and Slick's sort of like everything looks so clean. Everything. I mean, there's my bag, and
Oh,
so
yeah,
everything. It is technology driven, and it also is very. What they've done is basically they're an enormous team, and so what they want to do is they want to get the agents to plug into all their systems that have been there, and that
right.
is one thing that is kind of cool about starting over is after we joined Compass, we were so overwhelmed with the brand switch and just a really busy year that I don't think we embraced the Compass systems as much as I would have liked. And then
Uh,
now, me and Kylie, every week we're getting trained on it, and we're already seeing stuff that we had no idea we could do. And
right.
what it is they're tools that really, really do help our clients and help us stay in better touch with our clients. And then when the other pretty big thing is that most other brokerages are independently owned. Compass is one company all over the country. So what's pretty cool is that when you have someone that wants to be helped in another city, there's this hub of what I used to do is our operations manager would call the other city and just sort of hunt down realtors and then we would interview them. But
Right.
like if we had one in Tampa, we would just go close by to Compass and there's an app on our phone and you just say, I just did it. I got someone I need in Charlotte. And immediately 6 names popped up of people who had used those people in Charlotte. So it's a company to company referral,
Right.
and that's a big accountability difference.
Yeah, right. It's like like a McDonald's. You go to McDonald's anywhere in the world, you know what you're getting.
Yep. And Compass is one of the few places that they will not they let agents in based on production. So that's a big differentiator, because that person has at least sold a good amount of homes. And
Yeah.
then just with the luxury, my referrals jumped. Maybe it was just because I was referring better people, I don't know, or maybe it was because I was referring with more confidence. But in
Yeah.
every different city, it's been really gratifying, that because that how that it's like when you refer someone out, that's stressful.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've been fortunate enough that I'm just lucky that I have good people around. So I know if I'm referring, they're going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
And you said you're specific in Northern Virginia. So where are you concentrating?
I would say Loudon and Fairfax, because mostly. But the cool thing about growing up around here, and the other thing is too, I'm transparent. A lot of agents, if you say you have like an Old Town Alexandria place, they'll just pretend to be an Old Town Alexandria expert, And I had our mutual friend Julian Brown.
Oh yeah,
yeah, he
Mr.
referred me
Brown.
a gentleman that was looking in Old Town, and he was looking between two. He was like, "I want an Old Town expert." I got him on the phone. I said, "I grew up in Northern Virginia. I grew up in Reston. I'm not an Old Town expert. Me and my teammate will be with you 24/7. We will handle it, and you will be happy." And it was more of a transparent thing, and we did. So
yeah, no, that's great.
I think most of our business comes in Loudoun and Fairfax, but in Northern Virginia, we can handle anywhere.
Yeah, it's the 3 areas: sellers, buyers, investors. What advice would you give a seller right now?
Same advice that I gave through when it was crazy, because I got a lot of kickback when the market was very seller based with, "Oh, we don't need to renovate, and we don't need to do this, we don't need to do that. It's going to sell anyway." The big thing is do the renovations, because I call it the HGTV effect, where people they look at HGTV, they show you the granite countertops, just painted, all the hip colors and things like that.
Right.
So when you're on the seller side, you want to appeal to all of that. And what a lot of people don't realize, and I get this kickback all the time, they say, "Well, what if I'd rather not do it and let the buyer choose?" Well, that makes a certain amount of sense, but 2 things sort of factor in. Number one, I have a stager, Lee Newport, who I work with. She owns Stage by Design, and she is the best. She will counsel sellers, this is what buyers are looking for.
Yeah.
But number 2, buyers will often not know the price of upgrades. You know what I mean? That's something I think a lot of people don't think about, is when you don't do something and it's a $10,000 upgrade, the buyer might walk in and think it's 20. So if you do it, then you do a couple things. You get it done, and then they can, they don't have to worry about doing it after they move in. And then with rates still historically low, they can then borrow by paying more for your property. They can then borrow the money and not have to worry about going in.
Yeah, and Fannie actually has a great program for people looking to buy, and they may need to do the upgrades.
Yep.
They can build that into their loan, which I guess a lot of people don't know about. So you talked about some buyers. What buyer, beware, please don't do this. I'll give the easy one: get pre-approved. Everyone knows that. Your time is money. I tell people all the time, realtors' time is money. Don't waste their time with a pre-qualification, especially in the seller's market. You want to be fully approved before they even want you in their car. You don't have to. I don't want my realtors to have to say that. I want my clients to know the realtor, your time is very precious to you, and you don't want to be going and showing 15 houses to somebody who's not qualified in that price point. Totally. But besides that, what are some common
the biggest thing with buyers is I sort of flip it over and I go, don't be that HGTV buyer. And I say, I want us to be going in and seeing the house that doesn't look good. And then me or an agent on my team educating you to, oh, this is just paint. Because that's the cool thing about the realtor career trajectory, is that you start out working with more buyers, because people ask you how many houses you've listed and sold, and you're like, none. They're like, well, what am I doing here? So you start out with a lot of buyers, and then you learn how buyers think, and then you get over to the seller side. So I had a lot of buyers, I didn't like that house. I just didn't like the paint. And I said, that's, that whole house, this is how much it's going to be. Look past that. And so
Yeah,
buyers, you have to tell them, look past it. I have a good network of contractors, get a better deal going in, and then put your own sweat equity going in. And then
right.
the other thing that I think is really important that doesn't get discussed a lot is when it got crazy in the spring, there was almost, the offer process was just so absurd, because you would go in and the conversation would be, how high do we want to go?
Yeah.
And then now it's coming back to a more normal process. And one of the biggest things I learned was, rather than going, I'm sure you know this too, where rather than going in, if the house is 800, saying, let's offer 780, and then there's no plan. You know what I mean? So what we do with our buyers is we do a CMA of the property. We say, this is what we think it's worth, and this is what I would buy it for, top level. You tell me what the most is you will pay, and then you trust us to go in and get a better deal. And what I found, I started doing that 7 or 8 years ago, and they have to trust you a lot,
Yeah.
to do it. But it's a lot better because you don't get the emotional ping pong back and forth. And as you know, that's when bad decisions are made. Because if you
No,
said,
yeah.
hey, me and Pete a week ago, we agreed 780 was the highest we are going to go. Now we're a week later, and I've had people overrule me,
Yeah. Yeah.
and go a little higher. But it sort of helps keep the emotion as hard as you can out of it, because obviously
Right.
there's so much of that involved.
Right. Let me add to the seller, by the way, the FISBO. I get it. You want to try to save on the commission that you're giving to
Right.
realtors, but realtors are realtors for a reason.
Yeah.
And if someone is buying and sees a FISBO, they're coming in at a low price anyway.
Yep.
So just, it's worth it. If you're thinking of selling, just get a realtor. It's worth the time. It's worth the money, the hassle of negotiating. You don't have to do, because oftentimes people do this FISBO thinking they're going to save, and then all of a sudden they're getting lowballed, and they end up selling it for less than they would have if they had a realtor and had to give up the commission.
Totally. And every FISBO I've been on the buyer side of has not gone well. It
Yeah.
just can't, because, and it's not like we have this proprietary knowledge. It's just that we've done it a lot, and
In
it
the
is a lot
trenches.
more. Yeah. And you just realize there's a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
it's funny. And you've probably gotten this too, where there'll be clients where we're done and they'll be like, whoa, I didn't realize there was so much that goes into buying a house.
Welcome to my world. Jump in
Right.
while the water's warm.
100%.
Yeah.